Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So we will start our discussion and continue from the previous class. So in yesterday's class, what we have seen, we have after going through the basics of conservation equations, we have started discussing about PDEs, partial differential equations, and we have noted what is basically a PDE. It's an equation with a variable which is a function of more than one independent variable and has at least one partial derivative of that function. And we have seen certain examples. Then we have also noted what is the order of a PDE. It is the order of the highest derivative term in the equation. So we have seen what is the first order PDE, what is the second order PDE. For this course particularly, and for most engineering applications, second order PDEs have a large amount of significance. Means many of the physical phenomena that we see in nature can be approximated using second order PDEs or can be governed using second order PDEs. So we will study the nature of second order PDEs. Then we have seen what is the principal part of a PDE. This is the high, means includes all the terms which contains the highest order terms. For example, for this general second order PDE, these three second order terms constitute what is known as the principal part of the PDE. After this, we have seen what is a linear PDE and what is a non-linear PDE. Okay, and the main significance was that for linear PDEs, it is easier to solve because you don't need iterative solution techniques. For non-linear PDEs, it is more time consuming to solve because you need non-iterative solution techniques to overcome the non-linearity. So today what we are going to do is we are going to study about the nature of second order PDEs as required for CFD problems, means nature or different types of behavior of second order PDEs which is relevant for our CFD problem. So what is the significance of second order PDE? As I have already mentioned, many heat transfer and fluid mechanics problems in real life can be modeled using second order PDE. Okay, like for example, heat transfer problems, any heat transfer problem, heat conduction with convection, then flow, different types of fluid mechanics problems. So any type of flow, turbulence, so all this require modeling using second order PDEs. Okay. So it is then wave propagation. So we need to classify second order PDEs if possible to understand its physical behavior. Why? Because different types of second order PDEs different types of second order PDEs govern different types of physical phenomena. They denote different types of physical behavior in real life. Okay, so one type of second order PDE may show us one type of solution behavior. Another type of second order PDE may show another type of behavior. So depending on different types of behavior, we need different types of solution algorithms to be developed in CFD. Okay, a single solution algorithm will not fit all types of PDEs. So as a result, we need to differentiate between different types of PDEs so that we can develop appropriate solution algorithms for these different types of PDEs. Okay. So we want to classify the PDEs based on their physical behavior. And why is it important? It is important because for different physical behavior, we need different solution algorithms. So we will not actually, I will not going, for this course, I am not going to derive the classification, how it has been derived. We'll just state the classification and then we will try to understand through a few cases what is the importance of this classification, what is the physical behavior for different cases. Okay. Derivation is also possible, but it is beyond the scope of this course. Okay, it will take too much time. So I will just mention the physical significance of these different types of classification. So if we consider a general second order PD, a general second order PD can be represented by this equation that you can see here. Okay. So it has general second order PD for a two-dimensional problem. Okay. If we have a general second order PD for a two-dimensional problem, it can be represented in terms of derivatives with respect to x and y. Because it's a two-dimensional problem, it is dependent on two independent variables x and y. Okay. Or it can be dependent on x and t. So two dimension does not mean two spatial dimension. It can be one time dimension, temporal dimension, and one spatial dimension, space dimension. Means two independent variables are there. So it can be described as a del square u del x square plus b del square u del x del y plus c del square u del y square. So this is the principal part, plus d del u del x plus e del u del y plus fu plus g equal to 0. Okay. So all types of terms are shown here. So any second order PD for a two-dimensional problem will be a subset of this. Means it may have some terms from here and some coefficients, but the form will be similar to this form. Okay. It can have three derivatives, second order derivatives, then two first order derivatives, then some term with respect to u, fu. Okay. Remember u square, u cube, this type of terms also can be present. In those cases, this coefficient f will have these u terms. Okay. Only one u is shown separately, the coefficient, so it will be nonlinear. Plus any term which does not have any of the dependent variable u. So those can be clubbed together in this term g. Okay. So for this PD, we can classify it based on the coefficients of the principal part, coefficients of the highest order terms. How? So if this is written in this form, a del square u del x square plus b del square u del x del y plus c del square u del y square, where a, b and c are the coefficients of these three terms. Based on these three coefficients a, b and c, if b square minus 4ac is less than 0, we call it an elliptic equation. Okay. This can be derived also, but we will not derive it in this course. If you are interested, you can take a look at any of the books and you will be able to see how this is derived. Okay. I will give you the brief idea about what is the significance, why we get this type of term b square minus 4ac. But b square minus 4ac, if it is less than 0, we call it as an elliptic equation. And the characteristics the feature of elliptic equation is that there are no real characteristic lines. So at this moment you may not know what is a characteristic line. I will describe in the subsequent page, but we will just note it at this point that elliptic equations does not have any real characteristic lines, or characteristic lines are imaginary. There are no real characteristic lines. Okay. Then if b square minus 4ac is equal to 0, the equation is called as parabolic equation, and there is one real characteristic line. I will describe what is a characteristic line in the next page, but at this moment please note that parabolic equations have only one real characteristic lines, and for parabolic equations these coefficients are related such that b square minus 4ac is equal to 0. And if b square minus 4ac is positive, then we call the equation as hyperbolic equation, and hyperbolic equations have two real and distinct characteristic lines. Okay, two real and distinct characteristic lines. Two separate lines are there. So now the question is, what is the characteristic line? Okay. So characteristics are line across which, so say there is a domain. Okay, there is a domain. So on that domain, you have the variable you defined. Let me just wait for a minute. Anyway, we will discuss these things in detail in the next class. But let me show you one case. Okay. So say you have a domain which is like this. This is our problem domain. Okay. CFD domain. So within this domain, some variable u is defined. Okay. U is a function of say x, y, time, whatever, x and y. Okay. So in the entire domain, we may have terms like this del square u, del x square. Okay. Second order terms del square u, del y square, del square u, del x, del y. This term of terms can be calculated in the entire domain. However, there are some lines. Okay, for example, there can be lines like this. Okay. So along these lines, these derivatives do not have any value, means they do not have any solution, or there is a jump across these lines. Okay. So there may be certain value of del square u del x square within this region, and then suddenly there is a jump on this line, and outside there is another type of value. Okay. So these lines represent the locations at which points, or these lines are the amalgamation of all the points over which there is a discontinuity of the highest order derivative. Okay, so you have a highest order derivative which is the second order derivative, and it was continuous up to a certain point. Then there is a sudden jump in the value of this, okay, of this highest order derivative, and again it is continuous outside. So the jump, where the jump occurs, that line is known as the characteristic line. Okay. It has a physical significance. If you don't understand the mathematical meaning, it will be clear when we try to understand the physical significance of characteristic lines. Okay, but by definition, it is a line across which the highest order partial derivatives are not continuous. There is a jump on this line. Again, if we consider the second order PD as shown below, means as we have discussed already, AUXS plus BUXY plus CUYY plus DUX plus EUY plus FU plus G equal to 0. The partial derivatives of the highest order are UXX, UXY and UYY. Okay. So these partial derivatives may or may not be continuous over the entire domain, as I was just describing. Okay. And there may be lines across which these highest order partial derivatives are not continuous. So these lines are called as characteristics of the second order PDE. Okay. Just wait for a minute. I'll switch off my SIM. So these lines where the highest order derivatives are discontinuous, not continuous, are known as characteristics. Okay. So for elliptic equations, there is no region in the domain, because there are no real characteristics. There is no region in the domain where there is any discontinuity. Okay. For parabolic type of behavior or parabolic type of equations or physical phenomena which is governed by parabolic equation, there is a single line over which there is discontinuity in the domain. For hyperbolic type of behavior, there are two lines in the domain over which there is discontinuity. Okay. So we will see through some examples and it will become more clear. Why this is important? This is important for developing proper numerical algorithms, proper solution techniques for this type of problems. Why? Because if there is a jump, discontinuity, our solution technique should be able to take this discontinuity. For example, say we are solving for compressible flows and there is a shock wave. So there is a sudden discontinuity in the pressure and velocity across the shock wave. Okay, across the shock wave. So on one side you have high pressure and high velocity, and on another side you have, sorry, on one side you have low pressure and high velocity, on the other side you have high pressure and low velocity across the shock wave. So there is a sudden discontinuity. So this type of discontinuity should be able, or we should be able to capture in our numerical algorithm, numerical technique. So depending on the type of characteristics, whether there are two characteristics or one characteristic or no characteristics, our solution technique will change, and that's why it is important to know the behavior of this second order PDEs. Okay. So before going into some examples, which we will start today and continue in the next class, let us try to understand quickly, without going into the mathematics, about why this term b square minus 4ac is relevant. Okay, without going into too much details, we will try to understand. So what happens is that when you are trying to find the discontinuity on the for the second order derivatives, what actually you are trying to find is locations where the solution for the second order derivatives do not exist. Okay, solutions for the second order derivatives do not exist. So while doing this, actually we can derive equations for solving for the second order derivatives, and there are certain cases for which means say if you write them in matrix. So I don't want to go into the mathematical details, that's why I'm vaguely explaining. So if you write them in matrix form, you will have a coefficient matrix multiplied by this matrix of the second order or the vector of the second order PD which is equal to some term. Okay. So if the coefficient matrix has a determinant of 0, in that case solution does not exist, or there exists infinite number of solutions. Okay. So when you calculate that determinant, you get terms like this b square minus 4ac. Okay. So that's why this type of terms comes, and depending on this, so it comes as square root of b square minus 4ac. Minus b is plus minus square root of b square minus 4ac by 2a. So this type of term comes like a normal quadratic equation. So that's why this has a lot of significance, because depending on this b square minus 4ac, it depends whether uh, we have a real root or we have imaginary root, or we have a single real root or two separate real roots or not. So we will not go into any further mathematical details of this in this course. Okay. If you are interested, you can read more, or I can supply you with more details, but otherwise we will not go into further details. Okay. In the fourth semester, there is another course similar to this course, almost similar, which is known as CMTFE, Computational Methods in Thermal and Fluid Engineering. This is for dual degree students, compulsory course, core course. So in that course, we go into more details of, that is also a course which I teach. So in that course, we go into more details of these characteristics and how they are derived. Okay, it's a 4 credit course. So now let us try to find or try to understand this physical significance. You can say that, okay, fine, I have a problem and I have an equation and I have found that this equation is elliptical. So my question is, this equation is elliptical, so what? So what is its physical significance? Okay, what is the importance in just explaining that this is a, or describing that this is an elliptical equation? Okay, how can I relate it to real life problem? That this type of questions may arise for us. Okay, so this type of questions let us try to answer through a few case studies or few examples. That what is the significance of this classification, elliptic, parabolic and hyperbolic. Okay, or how they relate to real life behavior. So how do elliptic behavior look like, how do parabolic behavior look like, how do hyperbolic behavior look like? Any questions up to this point?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay. So case 1, which is one of the most famous equations, as I have already described, is known as the Laplace equation. Del square u is equal to 0, where u is the dependent variable. Okay. So in 2D we can write this as uxx plus uyy equal to 0. Uxx, remember, is the double derivative, del square u del x square, and uyy is the double derivative, del square u del y square. Okay. So it's a second order PD because you have these second order terms, del square u del x square plus del square u del y square. Okay. So in 2D you have only two terms, in 3D it will have three terms. So one example of Laplace equation yesterday we have discussed is 2D steady state heat conduction equation. For 2D steady state heat conduction, the equation looks like this: del square T del x square plus del square T del y square equal to 0. All the other terms are 0, so conductivity also can be removed, and you are left with two second order terms of temperature with respect to x and y. Okay, so you have a 2D domain because there is variation with x and y. So you have a 2D domain which has certain value with respect to x and y, and within this domain temperature T is defined, and we want to understand the nature of this behavior of the temperature. Okay, so let us try to fit this calculation here. Okay. B square minus 4ac. So for this PD, I can write this as A is, what is A? For the first term, del square u del x square. So del square T del x square, A is 1. Then for the mixed derivative, we have the B coefficient, del square T del x del y. So in this case, there is no mixed derivative, so B is 0. And then with respect to the second independent variable, we have another second order term. So the coefficient is 1. So C is 1. Okay. A is 1, B is 0, and C is 1. So B square minus 4AC is 0 minus 4 into 1 into 1. So minus 4. Minus 4 is less than 0. So it means that this is an elliptic PD. Okay. Or the behavior is like an elliptic behavior. Again, the same question you can ask me. We find that the Laplace equation is an elliptic PD. But so what? What is the physical significance of this finding? So although we have found that this is an elliptic PD, how does it relate to the real life solution? Okay, it's just that nomenclature is elliptic PD, but how does it relate to real life solution? So to do this, let us look at the behavior of this temperature in the domain. Okay, say we have a domain like this, a 2D domain like this. I have explained here with respect to Cartesian coordinate system, but it can be based on any coordinate system, but it needs to be 2D. Okay, all this discussion is only, so remember, all this discussion is only valid for second order PD and two-dimensional PD. For other dimensions, like if there are three independent variables, these things can be generalized, but we will not go into those details. But still, this is very relevant because in most cases, many cases, we have second order PDs, or two-dimensional second order PDs. Okay. So this entire domain, we want to solve the heat conduction problem. Okay, steady state heat conduction problem. So steady state heat conduction, remember, means that there is no transient term, means there is no variation with temperature. You have boundary conditions at the end, and based on this, you find what is the steady state temperature in the entire domain. Say on one wall, it is given that temperature is, on the left wall, it is 100 degrees centigrade. On the right wall, it is given that temperature is 50 degrees centigrade. Top and bottom, it is given as adiabatic. Okay. So you know how the temperature will vary. It will decrease from 100 to 50 degrees centigrade linearly in steady state because the top and bottom walls are insulated. They do not show any variation. Okay. So this is the steady state case. So let us consider one case similar to this where the domain initially is at constant temperature everywhere. Okay. So the entire domain is maintained at 300 degrees centigrade or some temperature 100 degrees centigrade. Entire domain is maintained at 100 degrees centigrade. Because it is a steady state problem, what is the boundary temperature in that case? What is the temperature at all boundaries? Answers? Or let me pose the problem in another way. Say all the boundaries are maintained at 200 degrees centigrade. Initially the plate was at 30 degrees centigrade. Okay, initially we had a plate like this square plate at 30 degrees centigrade. Now I maintain all the boundaries at 200 degrees centigrade. What is the steady state temperature distribution in the plate if there is no source term? You have read heat transfer. It should be very clear to you. This is a very trivial question.
Sir, it will be 200.
It will be 200, right? Because there is no other, it has reached steady state and there is no heat source, nothing else to vary the temperature. Ultimately, it will be in equilibrium. And because all the boundaries are at 200 degrees centigrade, everywhere the temperature needs to be 200 so that it is in equilibrium. Otherwise, if there is any temperature difference, there will be some heat transfer and temperature will try to change. So say one region is at 150 degrees centigrade. So from hot region to that cold region, there will be some temperature, some heat transfer, and the temperature of the cold region will increase. So it will be 200 steady state. So steady state temperature is the same everywhere. Now if you put a source term or a perturbation, okay, disturbance at any given location, say we introduce a source term or some change at a point P. So at this point P, say we have made the temperature 500 degrees centigrade. Okay, boundary temperature is still 200, but at this source term, at this point, we have made the temperature 500 degrees centigrade. So we have introduced some disturbance or fluctuation or perturbation or a source term at some point. Okay, so in that case, what will happen in the steady state solution? What do you expect? What will be the steady state solution? Say this P point is at the center. Can you explain verbally what will happen? Boundaries are still at 200 degrees centigrade. What will be the temperature distribution?
Sir, it will vary from 500 to 200 in a uniform manner.
Yes, in all directions, right? In all directions, it will vary in an uniform manner from 500 to 200. Okay. So, if we solve a steady state problem, because there is no dependence of time, whenever you introduce this disturbance, everywhere the solution will change. Okay. So, if I introduce this 500 degrees centigrade here, at that moment itself, within the equation will dictate that all the locations have different temperatures. So, say nearby it is 450, then far away 400, then 350, 300, 250, and finally at the boundary it is 200. Okay. It does not take any time to establish this solution. Why does not it take any time? Because this is the steady state solution. Okay. So, at steady state, any change anywhere in the domain is felt all over the domain instantaneously, as if the information is traveling at infinite speed. Okay. So for elliptic type of behavior, because this is an elliptic type of equation, this is governed by elliptic equation, Laplace equation, we see that the behavior or from physical phenomena, we see that behavior is that if any source term is introduced at any point P, the information about the source term, that there is a source term that has been introduced, travels in all directions from that source, from that point. Okay, the source causes a disturbance at point P which travels in all directions from the point P at infinite speed. So instantaneously, all the temperature value in the entire domain will change. Okay, instantaneously means not with respect to time, with respect to calculation, means in the next calculation iteration you will see that all the temperature has to change. Okay, because this is the steady state temperature, the steady state temperature will change. Okay, there is no time dependence. You are calculating the equilibrium temperature, and equilibrium temperature has to change. If there is any disturbance anywhere, the entire domain, equilibrium temperature for the entire domain gets changed. Okay. So as if the information has traveled in all directions at infinite speed. Okay. So this type of behavior is seen in elliptic equation. All the points in that, so again to clarify this, it means that all the points in the domain, okay, any point other than P, any point in the domain will feel the effect of the disturbance or change instantly. Okay. So if I consider a point here at the corner, if there is any change anywhere in the domain, this point will feel that there has been a change. Okay. So whenever there is a change at any point in the domain, all the other points in the domain also see the change. Okay. So the temperature, if it is changed at any point in the domain, all the temperature at all the other points will also change. Okay. This is what we mean by that information travels in all directions at infinite speed. Okay. All points in the domain will feel the effect of the disturbance instantaneously. In other words, any change at point P influences the value of all other points of the domain instantly. Okay. The second thing is that any change at any other point, okay, any change at any other point, if we open this, any change at any other point instantly changes the value at P. Okay. So if we make any change at any other point, that also is felt instantly at P. Okay. Any change at any location in the domain affects the point P instantly. Okay. So in CFD, we have something called domain of dependence and domain of influence. Okay. Domain of dependence is the domain or the part of the domain on which the value of P depends. Okay. So if there is any change within the domain of dependence, the value of P will change. Okay. For this elliptic type of behavior, the entire domain is the domain of dependence. Okay. So if the value changes anywhere in the entire domain, the value at P will change. Similarly, there is something called domain of influence, which we will study in a few minutes. Okay. Domain of influence. So domain of influence is the region in the domain or is the sub-region in the domain where the values will change if there is any change in the value at P. Okay, so if I make any change at P, it will influence a certain region. That region is known as domain of influence of P. Okay, so for this elliptic equation, any change at P will change the entire domain values. So the entire domain is also the domain of influence. So the entire domain is domain of dependence as well as domain of influence. We will see that for other types of equation, this is not true. Okay, this is only true for elliptic equation. What it means is that there is no discontinuity in the domain and the solution of T is smooth. Means there is a continuous variation of T in the entire domain. Okay, there is no jump, no discontinuity. Okay, because any change will be felt instantly at any other point. Okay, without any jump or any discontinuity. Okay, so there is no change in the, there is a continuity in the solution. Okay, so the main crux of this discussion is that if we want to develop a solution algorithm for an elliptic problem, if we want to develop a solution algorithm for an elliptic problem, we need to ensure that so what do we do in CFD problem? We divide the domain into small parts, okay, subdomains, which we have called as control volumes or grid points. So we need to ensure that for any grid point P, the calculation of temperature includes all the neighboring points from all the directions, okay, because the temperature at P will depend on the temperature of all the neighboring points. We need to include all the neighboring points into the calculation. Okay, so this is the importance of the finding that that physical behavior, this type of continuous physical behavior, that solution at P will depend on the solution at all the or value of temperature at all the other locations. So our algorithm also should be such that the solution here depends on all the other locations. Okay, this is different from parabolic equations, as we will see in a few minutes. Okay, where the solution depends on only one side of the domain, not on both sides, value of both sides. The second thing is that we need to provide boundary condition over the entire boundary of the domain. Okay, so for this boundary, this boundary, this boundary, and this boundary, we need to provide boundary condition. So these type of problems are also known as boundary value problems. Okay, we need to provide boundary condition over the entire domain, and this type of problems are known as boundary value problems. Any questions? Because this is slightly tricky concept to understand. There should be a lot of questions.
Sir, the domain of influence and domain of dependence is being told with respect to a point inside the domain, right?
Yes, yes, correct. So it will change depending on the point. Okay. In this case, it is not changing for the elliptic equation. In the next class, we will study about hyperbolic equation, and we will see that the domain of dependence and domain of influence will change. Today also we will study about parabolic equation, and we will see that domain of dependence and domain of influence will change if the location of the point changes. It depends on the location of the point. But for elliptic equation, it is anyway the entire domain, both these. So you have to, again I will repeat for the sake for the others. Domain of dependence is, by the name it should be clear. Okay, domain of dependence. So dependence, so it means that this point P depends on the value of that domain. Okay, so here the point P depends on the entire domain. So the entire domain is domain of dependence. Domain of influence, so the word influence is there. It means that P influences the region. Okay, so in this case P influences the entire region. So the entire region is domain of influence. Okay, so this is the importance of domain of dependence and domain of influence. Any other questions? Let us try to take a look at another type of behavior, and once we go through this and the third type, hyperbolic equation, in the next class, then we will revisit this and try to again understand, means what is the difference between this elliptic behavior and the other two types of behavior, and it will become more clear that why this behavior is different from the other two types. Okay, so let us consider a second case. Second case is unsteady conduction equation. Okay, unsteady diffusion equation. 1D unsteady diffusion equation. What is the equation? I will give an example. Example is 1D unsteady heat conduction. Okay, it can be any other diffusion equation also, like chemical diffusion or like any species diffusion. But for this case, for simplicity, we will take the heat conduction equation. So we can write the 1D unsteady heat conduction equation as del T of T is del capital T by del small t, okay, is equal to diffusivity alpha into del square T del x square. This is a second order PD because of this conduction term. Okay, and it is a two-dimensional problem in the sense that it has one dimension along the x direction and one dimension along the time direction. Okay, so two independent variables. So it's a two-dimensional problem, not two physical dimensions, not two spatial dimensions, but one spatial dimension and one temporal dimension. So it has two independent variables. Okay, so this is also the type of equation that we were looking here. Okay, same type of equation. So for this type of equation, let us try to see what is the value of A, B, and C. Okay, I can rewrite the equation as alpha del square T del x square minus del T equal to 0. Okay, so one of the independent variable is x, another independent variable is t, but there is no second order term with respect to t, only second order term is with respect to x. Okay, and its coefficient is alpha. So A is equal to alpha, B is 0 because there is no mixed second order terms, and C is also 0 because there is no second order term with respect to t. You can rearrange it in other ways also. Okay, but ultimately you will get the same type of behavior. So depending on, so if I take this to the other side, then we will have minus alpha here, and sorry. Yes, minus alpha here will be there, and this term will be there, positive term. But whatever way you arrange it, ultimately your b square minus 4ac. So b square is anyway 0, and 4ac, because of the c is 0, 4ac will be 0. Okay. So, and if b square minus 4ac is 0, we saw that we can call it as a parabolic equation. Again, the same question arises in our mind, that we have found that this 1D heat conduction, unsteady heat conduction equation is parabolic equation. But so what? So what is the significance of this? Okay, we can call it a parabolic equation, but what I am going to do with this nomenclature, with this calling it as parabolic equation, like how can I relate it to real life? Okay. So again, let us try to understand the behavior of this type of equation by drawing the domain for this. Okay. So what is the domain for this? The CFD domain is different, but I will draw the domain, the entire domain, not the CFD domain. So CFD domain here is one dimensional, right? Because there is one spatial domain. You have a one dimensional. So only the variation along the x length. Okay. So say the length of the domain is L. Okay. So our x varies from 0 to L. Now in the time direction, say our calculations will go from time 0 to time t last. So say t last is 100 seconds. So our time will go from 0 to 100 seconds. Okay. So there will be variation on the of the solution along the time direction also. There is variation of temperature along the x direction, and there will be variation in temperature along the time direction also. So the entire domain can be shown here by bounded by this region. Okay. In the x direction, the domain is bounded from 0 to L, and in the time direction, the domain is bounded from 0 to t last. Okay. This is the entire solution domain. This is not the CFD domain or not the computational domain. Okay. It's the solution domain. This has all the solution values for the entire problem. Okay. So say again, to simplify, at time t equal to 0, say there is a variation along x direction. On the left hand side, you have 100 degree centigrade. You have a 1D problem. You have a 1D rod or 1D bar, okay, metallic bar. One side is kept at 100 degree centigrade, another side is kept at 0 degree centigrade. Okay, initially, and the initial temperature is that it is 50 degree centigrade initially everywhere, but one side is 0 degree, one side is 100 degree. Okay. So initially the distribution will look like there is 0 degree here or 100 degree here, then suddenly there is a jump, then there is 50 degree, 50 degree, 50, 50, 50, and at the end it is 0 degree. Okay. In the next time step, after certain time, we will see that the jump has vanished. So we are still at 100 degree at the boundary, but then the temperature slowly decreases to 50 degree and then slowly again decreases to 0 degree. Okay. So if you continue this calculation for long time until it reaches steady state, you will see that one side is at 100 degree and the temperature linearly decreases to 0 degree to the other side. Okay. So this is a transient problem. So it will take certain amount of time for us to reach the final solution. Okay. So if somebody says that we only want to solve it for 10 seconds, we may not reach the final steady state solution. We may reach a intermediate solution. Okay. That is our final solution, because our problem says that up to this point only we need to solve. Many practical problems are like this. Okay. Say you want to solve for the melting of ice in a jar. Okay. And you want to find out what is the melting that is occurring within 10 minutes. So after 10 minutes, it will not reach steady state, but you can find out what is the temperature distribution by solving the transient heat conduction equation for that ice, okay, and see what is the melting pattern there. So this is the solution domain, okay. Any line along the x direction denotes the variation of temperature along the length of the rod, and any line along the y direction, what does it denote? Any straight line along the y direction. Say if there is a vertical line through P along the y direction, what does it denote?
The time variation of temperature at the midpoint of the rod.
Yes. So at that point, so if this point is here, the time variation, good. The time variation of temperature at that point of the rod. Okay, wherever we are drawing the line. So P is the midpoint. P need not be the midpoint. Okay, it can be any point. So at any point of the rod. Okay. So we know that we give the boundary conditions at x equal to 0 and x equal to L, and boundary condition is valid for all time. Okay, so this line represents the boundary condition at x equal to 0. This line represents the boundary condition at x equal to L. Okay, and we know that we provide the initial condition for the entire rod, means for the entire x value, but only at time t equal to 0. So we will give the initial condition at the bottom of the rod. Okay. So it is also like a boundary condition, but it is given not at the bottom of the rod, at the bottom of the solution domain. Okay. There is no time condition at the other end. Okay, because you cannot give a condition in future. Any condition given at the end of the problem cannot influence the problem, the past solutions. So there is no condition at the end of the time. Okay. So now let us try to understand this physical behavior after giving you this background. Say you introduce any disturbance, okay, at any point P in this solution domain. Okay. What does this P represent? It represents a point physically has a value x. So if the rod has a length of 1 meter, P can be 0.4 meter. So at the length 0.4 meter, we have introduced a fluctuation in temperature. Okay, some source term or some variation of temperature we have introduced, or some heat source. P also is located some distance along the time direction. Okay, so it is not at time equal to 0. It represents certain time. Say the entire time is 100 seconds, but P is at 40 seconds, 60 seconds. Okay, so at time t equal to 60 seconds, at a distance of x equal to 0.4 from this axis, we have introduced the source term. It means that before 60 seconds there was no source term in the rod. Okay, only at 60 seconds we have introduced the source term. And where did we introduce the source term? We introduced it at a physical point x equal to 0.4. Okay, so now what will be the effect of this source term? Okay, or effect of this disturbance? Can this source term introduced at 60 seconds change the temperature at 50 seconds or 40 seconds? Means can it change the previous temperature?
No, sir.
It cannot change, right? But it can change the future temperature along the length of the rod. It can change the temperature along the entire length of the rod. So if you have a rod and if you change the temperature somewhere, it can influence the entire length of the rod. Okay, but only in future, not in the past. So the change can be felt along the entire x direction. Okay, along the entire x direction, going from x equal to 0 to L. But for the time direction, it can be only felt starting from the location of the point. Okay, starting from the location of the point onwards. So if I draw a horizontal line through this point, okay, it demarcates a discontinuity. What is the significance of this discontinuity? We have drawn a horizontal line through this point. Okay, on the top of this horizontal line is a region which can be influenced by this point P, and the bottom of this line is a region which cannot be influenced by this point P. Okay, any point on the top of this region can be influenced by this point P. Okay, so then what is the domain of influence? Domain of influence we have defined as the domain which can be influenced by this point. Okay, so because any point on the top side can be influenced by this point P, the entire red region, the hashed region, red hashed region that I have shown here above this horizontal line is the domain of influence of P. Now, if we make any other change at any other point, okay, in future, can it change the value at P? So if I make a change at t equal to 80 seconds, at x equal to 0.2, okay, at x equal to 0.2, at t time equal to 80 seconds, if I make a change, will it change the value at time 60 seconds? It cannot change, right? It cannot change the past. So any change in future cannot change the past. So which values can change the value at point P? Or solution of which point can change the value of point P?
Sir, the points that occur before the time that is mentioned.
Yes, so any point, the temperature at any point in the x, along the x direction, but before the time, okay, before the time mentioned, before 60 seconds in this case, okay. So which is bounded here by this horizontal line. So the black hashed line, this region going from time t equal to 0 up to this point, this region can influence this point P, okay. So this region is known as domain of dependence of P, okay, because P depends on this region. P influences the top region, P depends on the bottom region. Okay. Now if the point P changes, like as you were asking in the previous, like for the elliptical equation. So if the point P changes, if the point P is here somewhere on the top, again the line, horizontal line through P will also change. So the domain of influence and domain of dependence will change. Okay. So the domain of dependence and domain of influence travels with the line, means it depends on the point P. Okay, it depends on the point at which the disturbance is given. And it is always, there is a discontinuity in the time direction. Why it happens? Because time is a one-way coordinate and can only influence the future if some changes occur at a point. Okay, it cannot influence the past. So this line, this discontinuity is known as the characteristic. Okay, so we have a single characteristic in this line, in this domain. One real characteristic is there, one discontinuity is there, and the behavior is, this type of behavior is called as parabolic behavior. Okay, the behavior that we are seeing here is known as parabolic behavior. Parabolic behavior means that there is a discontinuity along this direction. Okay, so it is important to note here, okay, that this problem is not fully parabolic. Okay, this problem shows parabolic behavior, means discontinuity along the time direction, but along the x direction any change will be felt by any other point, means conduction will influence any rod is there or any domain is there. So any change in temperature will influence the temperature at any other point also. So in a conduction problem, the temperature change at any location will change at the temperature at any other point. So along the x direction, it still has two-way type of behavior. Okay, only along the time direction it has one-way behavior. Okay, along the x direction it has two-way behavior. So this is actually, more accurately we should call it as parabolic in time and elliptic in space. Okay, although in many books it is just written as parabolic problem, in more accurate description it should be known as parabolic in time but elliptic in space. Okay, and this type of problems are also called as initial boundary value problems, because there is one initial condition and two boundary conditions. Okay, we cannot have another time condition because future cannot influence the past. So one characteristic of, or one feature of this type of problem is that for the time direction you have only one boundary condition. Okay, only for time t equal to 0. You cannot have condition for t equal to t last. Okay, because of the one-way nature of the coordinate. This type of problem also is known as time marching problem, because you march the solution in the time direction. As we will see later, this type of problems are much easier to solve, okay, as compared to elliptic problems, because you can just march along the time and just store the previous value and based on that calculate the new value. Okay, so we'll stop here and continue this discussion in the next class. We'll see what is hyperbolic equation, see an example of it, the wave equation, and again revisit this part. Okay, and try to understand the differences between these three types of behavior. Let us stop here. We have run out of time. If there are any questions, you can ask in the next class. Please go through the material. Okay. Don't leave before I take the attendance. Okay, and CFT5. Okay then. Okay, so you can leave now. Thank you, and we will